Science Officer Zrelex pressed his four-fingered hand against the viewport of the Celestial Seeker and stared at the drifting vessel. His pale blue skin reflected in the glass as he watched the unknown ship tumble slowly through the void. It was unlike anything he had seen in his 200 cycles of exploration. Commander Thrix should see this, he whispered to himself. The ship was damaged. Scorch marks ran along its hull, and portions of its structure were torn open to space. Yet, somehow against all logic, its power core still pulsed with energy. The radiation readings made no sense, levels that would kill most known species in the galaxy. Zrelex hurried through the curved corridors of the Galactic Council exploration vessel. Crew members from a dozen different worlds moved aside as he passed. His urgency was clear to all. Commander Thrix sat at the center of the bridge, her scaled skin shimmering under the soft lights. 6 eyes blinked in sequence as she processed data streams from across the ship. "Commander," Zrelex said, "the unknown vessel. It's from a Class 15 world." The bridge fell silent. Class 15. Death worlds were theoretical until now. Planets so hostile that no intelligent life should be able to evolve there. Crushing gravity, poisonous atmosphere, extreme temperatures, deadly radiation, aggressive predators. These worlds had it all. "Impossible," Thrix said, rising from her command chair. "Show me." The main screen filled with images of the mysterious ship. Scans revealed a structure built to withstand forces that would crush their own vessel. "There are markings," Junior Officer Valine said, her voice soft but excited. The youngest member of the crew, she had sharp eyes and sharper instincts. "Look, there along the hull." The camera zoomed in on a series of symbols etched into the metal. USS Dauntless. "An identification," Zrelex said. "But from what language? It's in no Galactic Council database." Commander Thrix circled the holographic display. "Is it safe to board?" Zrelex checked his readings again. "The radiation is intense, but our suits can handle short exposure. The bigger concern is what we might find inside." "Assemble a team," Thrix ordered, "but full quarantine protocols. If this ship truly comes from a Class 15 world, anything aboard could be deadly." 6 hours later, Zrelex floated through the airlock of the USS Dauntless, surrounded by 5 specialists, in heavy protective gear. The artificial gravity was offline and debris drifted through the corridors. Emergency lights cast everything in a dull red glow. "The construction is primitive but ingenious," said Engineer Cole, scanning the walls. "They used materials that can withstand radiation that would melt our hulls." Zrelex moved carefully through the ship. Despite the damage, many systems were still functioning. Life support was offline, but power still flowed through certain circuits. How was that possible after what appeared to be a catastrophic event? "This way," Valine called out. "I've found what might be the control center." The bridge of the Dauntless was a circular room filled with what they assumed were control stations. Screens were dark, but some lights still blinked on various panels. Everything was built to accommodate a bipedal species of considerable size. "Look at the dimensions of these seats," Zrelex observed. "Whatever built this ship would be at least twice the mass of an Arcturian. How could they move efficiently?" Valine had already begun interfacing her tools with the ship's systems. "Commander, I think I can access their records. Their data storage is unusual but not incompatible with our technology." The main screen at the front of the bridge flickered to life. Strange symbols appeared, then began to translate as Valine's algorithms worked to decipher the language. A face appeared on the screen. The crew stepped back in shock. The creature had pinkish-brown skin, with fur on the top of its head. Its eyes were forward-facing, like a predator's, with white surrounds and colored centers. When it spoke, it revealed flat teeth with pointed canines, an omnivore's mouth. Final log entry, Captain Alan Price of the United States Space Force vessel Dauntless. The translation read beneath the moving image. "We've sustained critical damage from the encounter in the Tau Ceti system. Life support is failing. We've placed surviving crew in emergency cryostasis and set course for Earth using the last of our fuel. If anyone finds this message, the coordinates for Earth are included in this transmission." Tell them we tried to make it home. The screen went dark. Earth, Zrelux repeated. That must be the name of their world. Valine was working frantically at the console. I found it, Sol 3, in a system at these coordinates. She projected a star map into the center of the room. It's classified as a Class 15 death world in our preliminary surveys. No detailed exploration was ever conducted because the conditions were deemed too hostile. How is that possible? Engineer Cole asked. The gravity alone would crush most sentient species. The oxygen levels would be toxic, the temperature variations extreme, the radiation from their star. Yet they built this ship, Zrelux said, running his hand along a console. They survived in space, they adapted technology to their needs. Commander Thrix's voice came through their comms. What have you found? Life, Commander, Zrelux replied. Intelligent life from a world we thought uninhabitable, and according to these logs they may still be alive. The ship was setting course for their homeworld with survivors in some form of suspended animation. Are they a threat? Thrix asked. Zrelix looked at the last frozen image of Captain Alan Price. The human's eyes showed determination, intelligence, and something else. What the Arcturians called the fire inside, the will to survive against all odds. Any species that evolved on a Class 15 death world and survived to build ships that travel between stars. Yes, Commander, they could be the most dangerous species we've ever encountered, or the most valuable allies. Either way, the Galactic Council must be informed immediately. As they prepared to return to their ship, Valine called out from a side chamber. Officer Zrelux, you need to see this. Inside what appeared to be a weapons locker, they found a single container still sealed and functional. Through its frosted window, they could make out a humanoid form, perfectly preserved in suspended animation. A small light pulsed steadily on the container's control panel. One of them survived, Valine whispered. Zrelux studied the readings. Not just survived. According to these indicators, it's still alive. Back aboard the Celestial Seeker, Commander, Thrix called an emergency meeting. The holographic display showed the coordinates of Earth, a small blue-green planet orbiting an average yellow star. We must approach with extreme caution, she said. If these humans can survive conditions that would kill any of us in minutes, imagine what they might be capable of in combat or crisis. The Council must send a reconnaissance fleet, Security Chief Dorn insisted. If these Death Worlders have achieved space travel, they could pose an existential threat to the galactic community. Zrelux stared at the image of Earth rotating slowly in the display. Or they could teach us how to survive in environments we've always avoided. Think of the possibilities. Colonies on worlds we've dismissed as uninhabitable, technologies adapted to extreme conditions, medical advances. Either way, Commander Thrix concluded, our mission is clear. We will return to Council space with our findings. A proper expedition will be mounted to investigate this Earth and determine if these humans are a threat or potential allies. As the Celestial Seeker prepared to jump to faster-than-light travel, Zrelux took one last look at the USS Dauntless. Something told him that the galaxy would never be the same again. Admiral Korvash stood before the Galactic Council, his tall frame rigid with tension. The Grand Chamber held representatives from 200 worlds, all gathered to hear about the discovery of the USS Dauntless. Holograms of the human ship floated above the center of the room. The evidence is clear, Korvash said. A spacefaring species has evolved on a Class 15 death world. This changes everything we thought we knew about the conditions necessary for intelligent life. Murmurs swept through the chamber. A Class 15 world meant crushing gravity, extreme temperatures, toxic atmosphere, deadly radiation, and aggressive life forms. The idea that anything could evolve intelligence there seemed impossible. High Counselor Mirak, oldest of the Voldan species, leaned forward. What do we know of these humans? Korvash gestured, and new images appeared. The frozen form in the cryo chamber, the final log of Captain Price and scans of Earth. Very little, High Counselor. They call their world Earth. It orbits a yellow star with high radiation output. The gravity is 1.3 times our standard. Their atmosphere contains oxygen at levels that would be toxic to most Council species. They experience temperature variations that range from freezing to burning within a single planetary rotation. And yet they live, Diplomat Alara said. Her voice was soft, but carried throughout the chamber. The Lyrian diplomat was known for her skills at peaceful first contact. They not only survived but built ships capable of traveling between stars, which makes them incredibly dangerous, interrupted Security Chief Dorn. The heavily armored Krex slammed a clawed hand on the table. Any species that evolved in such conditions would be stronger, faster, and more resilient than most Council races. Their very bodies could be considered biological weapons. Science Officer Zrelix stepped forward. Or they could be valuable allies. Imagine what we could learn from them. How to survive in environments we've always considered uninhabitable. The Council debated for hours. Some argued for immediate contact, others for quarantine of the entire system. A few extremists even suggested preemptive measures to contain the potential threat. In the end, High Counselor Mirak raised his hand for silence. We will proceed with caution. Admiral Korvash will lead a small reconnaissance fleet to this Earth. You will observe only. Make no contact unless absolutely necessary. 3 weeks later, Admiral Korvash stood on the bridge of the Council flagship Star Wanderer as it dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Sol system. 5 other ships emerged alongside it, forming a protective screen. Passive. Scans only, Korvash ordered. We don't want to announce our presence. The fleet moved slowly through the outer planets, recording everything. Gas giants with complex ring systems, frozen worlds, a belt of rocky debris, and then, growing larger on their screens, a blue-green planet wrapped in white clouds. Life signs are overwhelming, reported the sensor officer. The biodiversity readings are off the scale. Korvash studied the data with growing amazement. Look at the satellite network around the planet. Primitive by our standards, but extensive, and there, spacecraft in orbit. They've established a base on their moon. Admiral, called out his communications officer, we're detecting thousands of different transmission types coming from the planet. Audio, visual, data. They're saturating the electromagnetic spectrum. Let me hear some, Korvash ordered. The bridge filled with sounds, music with strange rhythms, voices speaking in dozens of different languages, the static of data transmissions, screens lit up with images captured from the planet's broadcasts, cities sprawling across continents, vehicles moving along vast road networks, humans of different colors and sizes going about their daily lives. By the first stars, whispered Diplomat Alara, who had joined the mission despite Security Chief Dorn's objections. Look at them. They live in environments ranging from frozen tundra to burning deserts. They've adapted to every corner of their world, Dorn growled. And they fight constantly. Look at these news transmissions. Conflict, weapons, military forces. They're predators, just as I warned. The reconnaissance fleet spent days observing, gathering data from a safe distance. They watched humans moving freely in their poisonous atmosphere. They saw them withstand temperature changes that would kill most Council species. They observed their physical resilience and adaptability. They're expanding, Korvash noted as they tracked a small fleet of human ships heading out from Earth toward the 4th planet in their system, establishing colonies on another world in their system, one even more hostile than their home. Admiral, the sensor officer called urgently. We've detected an energy signature similar to the USS Dauntless. A ship is returning to Earth from deep space. The view screen showed a vessel larger than the Dauntless moving at impressive speed toward Earth. It bore similar markings. USS Horizon. They've been farther into space than we realized, Zrelix said, excitement in his voice. This isn't just a species taking its first steps into the void. They've been exploring. Security Chief Dorn moved closer to Korvash. Admiral, we should intercept this ship. It's isolated from the rest of their fleet. We could capture it, study their technology and physiology up close. The Council ordered observation only. Diplomat Alara objected. We're observing a potential threat, Dorn countered. These Deathworlders are expanding, exploring. How long before they find Council worlds? We need to know their capabilities now while we have the advantage. Corvash considered his options. The human ship would pass, relatively close to their position. They could intercept it easily, and it might provide valuable information about this puzzling species. Sensor officer, has this human vessel detected us? He asked. Negative, Admiral. Their scanning technology is primitive compared to ours. They show no signs of awareness. Corvash made his decision. Set course to intercept. Prepare capturing fields. I want that ship intact, and I want its crew unharmed. Admiral, I must protest, Alara said. This goes beyond our mandate. Your concern is noted, diplomat, Corvash replied. But the safety of the Council must come first. If these humans are as dangerous as they appear, we need to understand them before they understand us. The Council fleet moved silently through space, approaching the USS Horizon from behind. The human ship continued on its course, unaware of the danger closing in. On the bridge of the USS Horizon, Captain Noah Garcia felt a chill run down his spine. He glanced at the sensor displays, which showed nothing unusual, then out at the stars. Something wrong, Captain? Asked his first officer. Just a feeling, Garcia said, rubbing the back of his neck. Like we're being watched. Little did he know that his ship was about to become the focal point of the most significant first contact in galactic history, one that would reveal just how unprepared the Galactic Council was to deal with creatures from a Class 15 death world. Captain Noah Garcia stared at the emergency lights flashing across his bridge. The USS Horizon shuddered as an invisible force gripped the ship, slowing it to a halt in the empty space between Mars and Earth. Report! He shouted above the blaring. Alarms. Unknown energy field surrounding the ship, Captain, his science officer replied, fingers flying across her console. It's like nothing in our database. All engines are offline. Communications are being blocked. Garcia had spent 15 years in deep space. He had seen things that defied explanation, survived situations that should have killed him, but nothing had prepared him for this. Danny, get to the emergency transmitter, he ordered his communications officer. Use the prototype quantum system. It might cut through the interference. Lieutenant Danielle Rivera nodded and sprinted from the bridge. The experimental FTL communication device was their only hope of warning Earth. Everyone else, prepare for boarding, Garcia said, his voice steady despite the fear building inside him. Whatever's out there, they've caught us for a reason. Through the viewport, space itself seemed to bend and warp. 6 vessels suddenly appeared surrounding the horizon. They were unlike any ships Garcia had ever seen, sleek, almost organic in design with no visible engines or weapons. My God, whispered his first officer. On the main screen, a message appeared in dozens of shifting symbols before settling into English. Human vessel. Do not resist. You will be brought aboard for examination. No harm will come to your crew if you comply. Garcia felt a chill run through him, not just because they were being captured by an unknown force, but because the message confirmed what humanity had both hoped and feared for centuries. They were not alone in the universe. Arm yourselves, he ordered. Non-lethal measures only. We don't know their intentions yet. Deep inside the ship, Lieutenant Rivera reached the communications lab. The quantum transmitter was still experimental, unstable and power-hungry, but it operated on principles that might bypass conventional jamming. She activated the system and sent a simple message. Unknown vessels, possible first contact. Horizon captured near Mars orbit. Not hostile yet. Prepare. The message shot across space, instantly connecting with its paired receiver at Lunar Base Armstrong. Lieutenant Commander Paul Winters was reviewing routine security reports when the quantum receiver sparked to life. He read the message twice, not believing his eyes. Then he hit the emergency alert. Get me Director Wright at NASA now, he shouted to his staff. And wake up the defense fleet. This is not a drill. Within minutes, the sleepy lunar base transformed into a hive of activity. The small fleet of Earth's defensive spacecraft, just 6 ships, none tested in actual combat, prepared to launch. Winters knew they stood little chance against technology that could capture the horizon, but humanity would not surrender without showing its teeth. In Washington, D.C., NASA Director Samantha Wright was pulled from her bed by urgent calls. As one of the few people briefed on the long-standing protocol for first contact, she immediately headed to the Pentagon's underground command center. "What do we know?" she asked, entering the secure room where military and scientific leaders had gathered. "6 vessels of unknown origin have captured the horizon," General Frank Rodriguez replied. "Lieutenant Commander Winters has deployed the Lunar Defense Fleet, but they're outmatched and outnumbered." Wright studied the satellite images. "Have they made any aggressive moves toward Earth?" "Not yet. They seem focused on the horizon." Wright took a deep breath. For decades, humanity had prepared for this moment. Since finding the first alien artifacts on Mars in 2071, they had known contact was inevitable. What they hadn't expected was for the aliens to find them first. "Implement First Contact Protocol Alpha," she ordered. "Worldwide alert, but no public announcement yet, and get me a direct line to the lunar base." Aboard the Council flagship, Admiral Korvash watched as tractor beams pulled the human vessel into the docking bay. "Impressive construction," noted Engineer Cole, studying the horizon. "Primitive compared to our technology, but remarkably durable. Built to withstand impacts and radiation that would cripple lighter vessels." "Have the containment team ready," Korvash ordered. "Full protective gear. Remember, these humans evolved on a Class 15 death world. Treat them as extremely dangerous even if they appear cooperative." "Admiral," interrupted a sensor officer, "we're detecting unusual activity from the human moon base. Ships are launching, and we've identified an energy pulse that briefly emanated from the captured vessel before we brought it aboard." Korvash frowned. "They managed to send a message through our jamming field. Their technology is more advanced than we thought." "Security." Chief Dorn stepped forward, his armor clanking. "See? They're already mounting a response. We should neutralize their defensive capabilities now, while we have surprise on our side." "No," Diplomat Alara countered. "This is a logical response to an unknown threat. We captured their ship without warning. Of course they're preparing to defend themselves." Science Officer Zrillik studied the readings from Earth. "The energy output from their planet hasn't changed significantly. If they were preparing for full-scale war, we would see power redirected to weapon systems and planetary shields." "Do they even have planetary shields?" asked Dorn. "Unknown," Zralex admitted. "But they do have thousands of satellites and orbital stations, and their moon base appears heavily fortified." Inside the horizon, Captain Garcia and his crew felt the ship being pulled into what must be a docking bay. Through the viewports, they caught glimpses of a vast chamber filled with strange technology and beings moving about in protective suits. "Remember," Garcia told his crew, "we represent all of humanity now. Whatever happens, conduct yourselves with dignity. These beings could have destroyed us but chose to capture us instead. That suggests they want information, not war." The ship settled onto the deck with a gentle thud. Artificial gravity resumed. Slightly lighter than Earth normal, but heavier than they'd experienced in space. "Artificial gravity," noted the science officer with wonder. "They're at least a century ahead of us technologically." A voice spoke through the ship's communication system, now clearly in English. "Human captain, please prepare your crew for boarding. We mean you no harm, but resistance will not be tolerated." Garcia straightened his uniform. "Open the main airlock. Let's greet our new friends." As the airlock cycled open, the crew of the Horizon came face to face with their captors. A boarding party of aliens in sealed environmental suits, weapons held cautiously at their sides. Leading them was a tall, slender being with 4 eyes visible behind a protective mask. It spoke through a translator device. "I am Science Officer Zralex of the Galactic Council. You and your crew are now under quarantine. Please follow our instructions precisely." Captain Garcia stepped forward, hands empty and raised slightly to show he carried no weapons. "I am Captain Noah Garcia of the United Earth Space Force vessel Horizon. We come in peace, but we demand to know why our ship has been seized in neutral space." Before Zralex could answer, one of the boarding party collapsed suddenly to the deck, environmental suit sensors flashing warnings. Then another fell, and another. What's happening? Dorn demanded over the comm link. Zrelex's voice was filled with panic. Something's affecting the boarding team. They're losing consciousness even inside the protective suits. On the bridge of the Council flagship, Admiral Corvash realized with dawning horror what was happening. They're not attacking, he said softly. It's their biology, their natural environment, the microbes they carry. Even with our best filtration, something is getting through. The Deathworlders weren't just dangerous because of their strength or technology. Their very existence, the microscopic life they carried with them, was a weapon unlike anything the Council had ever faced. Chaos erupted aboard the Council flagship as medical teams rushed to evacuate the fallen boarding party. Captain Garcia and his crew were left standing in the airlock surrounded by unconscious aliens. Nobody move. Garcia ordered his crew. Don't make this worse. Through the speakers, Admiral Corvash's voice was tense. Human Captain, your biology is causing severe reactions in our personnel. You will remain in place while we establish proper containment. Garcia looked at the fallen aliens with concern. We mean no harm. Our medical officer might be able to help. No. The Admiral's response was immediate. Your assistance would likely cause more harm. Our medical team is adapting their protocols. Now, robots and drones soon appeared, moving the unconscious aliens to quarantine. Then came a new wave of aliens in much heavier environmental suits with advanced filtration systems. You will be escorted to a specialized containment area, said the lead alien. Follow precisely and touch nothing. The humans were led through vast corridors, past viewing windows where aliens of various species stared at them with expressions ranging from fear to fascination. Garcia noticed they were being treated like extremely dangerous specimens. They're terrified of us, whispered his science officer. Wouldn't you be? Garcia replied softly. We just took down their boarding party without lifting a finger. In a large laboratory chamber, the humans were separated into individual containment cells with transparent walls. Scientists in protective gear moved around them, taking readings and speaking in hushed tones. Science Officer Zrelex approached Garcia's cell, now wearing a much more substantial protective suit. Captain, I am the chief xenobiologist for this mission, Zrelex said. I must understand how your species functions. The readings we're getting are difficult to believe. What's so hard to believe? Garcia asked. You breathe oxygen at concentrations. That would be toxic to most species, Zrelex replied. Your cellular structure can withstand radiation levels that would kill most council races. Your immune systems are hyper-aggressive, your muscles incredibly dense. You are essentially walking biohazards to us. Garcia hadn't considered how frightening humans might appear to aliens from gentler worlds. We're just adapted to our environment. Earth shaped us over millions of years. A Class 15 death world shaped you, Zrelex corrected. No council race has ever evolved in such conditions. The closest is the Krex from a Class 9 world, and even they find your physiology extreme. Meanwhile, at Lunar Base Armstrong, Lieutenant Commander Winters watched the small defense fleet prepare for a possible rescue mission. The 6 ships were Earth's best, fast, agile, and armed with experimental weapons. But against the alien fleet they would be hopelessly outmatched. We need an edge, Winters told his team, something they won't expect. Major Sophia Lee, leader of the Lunar Special Forces, stepped forward. We could deploy Project Phantom. The room fell silent. Project Phantom was a Black Ops stealth ship designed to be virtually undetectable. It used experimental technology banned by international treaties, but maintained in secret for exactly this kind of existential threat. It's not tested in actual combat, Winters cautioned. Neither is anything else we have, Lee replied. But Phantom might get us close enough to the alien flagship to extract our people. Winters nodded slowly. Prepare it. But we don't move until we get authorization from Earth. In the Pentagon's Underground Command Center, Director Wright was briefing world leaders on the situation. For decades we've known this day would come, she told them. Since finding the abandoned alien outpost on Mars in 2071, we've been preparing. The artifacts we recovered gave us insights into advanced technology. But more importantly, they proved we weren't alone. Why weren't we informed? Demanded the Russian president. Because global panic would have been inevitable, Wright answered. Instead, key nations quietly cooperated to develop defensive capabilities and advance our space program. Everything from our quantum communications to our fusion drives was accelerated by what we learned. And now aliens have captured our ship, said the American president. Do we negotiate or fight? Wright studied the satellite images showing the alien fleet. We do both. I recommend opening communications while preparing our defenses, and I suggest authorizing Lunar Base to deploy all assets. The leaders voted. Minutes later, Winters received his authorization. Launch Project Phantom, he ordered, and may God help us all. Aboard the alien flagship, Admiral Korvash was facing a difficult decision. 3 of his boarding team had died despite medical intervention. The others remained critically ill. Their microbes bypassed our filtration systems, the medical chief explained. Their bacteria, viruses, even the dead skin cells they shed, all evolved in an environment so hostile that they're weaponized by our standards. Security Chief Dorn, now in an enhanced protective suit, slammed his fist on the table. I warned you. These Deathworlders are too dangerous. We should eliminate them now and sterilize their ship. No, Diplomat Alera objected. This was not an attack. It was an unfortunate biological incompatibility. The humans showed no aggression. Science Officer Zrelex was reviewing the data from the human examinations. You should see these readings. Their bone density, muscle efficiency, neural response times, they're off our charts. And their diseases, what they consider minor infections, would be plagues to most council races. Admiral Korvash studied the screens showing the contained humans. They looked so ordinary, bipedal with 2 arms, 2 legs, and a head. Nothing physically imposing compared to species like the Kreks. Yet they were perhaps the most dangerous beings the council had ever encountered. What about their technology, he asked. Mixed, replied Engineer Cole. In some areas, they're centuries behind us. In others, surprisingly advanced. Their quantum communication system is elegant, and they've developed technologies we never considered because our biology didn't require them. A sensor officer interrupted urgently. Admiral, we're detecting a transmission from the human planet. They're attempting to communicate. Put it through, Korvash ordered. The main screen displayed a human female in a formal uniform. This is Director Samantha Wright of Earth's Space Agency. You have captured our vessel in neutral space, an act we consider hostile. We demand the immediate return of our ship and crew. Admiral Korvash was impressed by the directness. I am Admiral Korvash of the Galactic Council. Your crew is unharmed but must remain in quarantine. Their biology is dangerous to our species. Then establish proper protocols for communication, Wright replied. But be warned. Any harm to our people will be considered an act of war. We are prepared to defend ourselves. Dorn scoffed after the transmission ended. Empty threats. Their technology is inferior. Is it? Zrelex questioned. They developed space travel despite evolving on a world that should have made such advancement impossible. They adapted to conditions that would kill any of us instantly. What else have they adapted to? What other surprises might they have? As they debated, none of them noticed the small distortion approaching their ship. The stealth vessel Phantom, carrying Major Lee and her team of lunar special forces, armed with weapons specifically designed based on the alien artifacts found on Mars. In his containment cell, Captain Garcia felt a subtle vibration through the deck plates. His years in space had attuned him to the feel of ships. Something had just docked with the alien vessel, something the aliens hadn't detected. He smiled slightly. Earth had not abandoned them, and the aliens were about to learn another lesson about humans from a Class 15 death world. They never left their people behind. Major Sophia Lee moved silently through the ventilation system of the alien flagship. Her 5-person team followed close behind, each wearing specially designed stealth suits based on technology recovered from the Mars outpost. Their helmets contained advanced filtration systems to prevent their microbes from affecting the aliens. Life signs ahead, whispered her second-in-command, checking a portable scanner. Large chamber, multiple aliens, and human biosignatures. Lee nodded. They had trained for years for a mission they hoped would never come. Now that it had, she felt strangely calm. Remember, she told her team, non-lethal methods only. This is a rescue mission, not an attack. We want to establish peaceful contact eventually. They positioned themselves above the laboratory where Captain Garcia and his crew were being held. Through the grates, they could see the containment cells and the alien scientists studying the humans. On my mark, Lee said, readying a device that would temporarily disrupt the alien systems. 3, 2, 1. The lights in the laboratory flickered and died. Emergency systems kicked in, bathing everything in a dim blue glow. The confused aliens looked around as the containment field generators failed. Lee and her team dropped from the ceiling, landing silently on the laboratory floor. Years of training in lunar gravity had made them experts in low-gravity movement. Captain Garcia, Lee called. Luna Special Forces, we're here to extract you. Garcia was already moving, organizing his crew. My people first, Major. Negative, sir. You're the priority. Before they could argue further, the laboratory doors slid open. Security Chief Dorn stood there with a team of armed guards, weapons raised. Humans, he growled. Stand down immediately. Lee raised her hand slowly, motioning her team to do the same. Fighting wasn't the objective, they needed more time. We came for our people, she said calmly. We mean no harm. Science Officer Zrilix pushed past the security team. Wait, don't fire. These humans came to rescue their companions, not to attack us. This is exactly what any council race would do, for their own. Admiral Korvash arrived moments later, his tall frame dominating the doorway. He surveyed the scene with all 6 of his eyes. Major, Garcia said quietly to Lee, I think diplomacy might be our best option now. Lee nodded slightly. Admiral, she addressed Korvash directly, I am Major Sophia Lee of Earth's Lunar Defense Force. We request the peaceful return of our vessel and crew. Admiral Korvash studied the humans with newfound respect. They had somehow boarded his flagship undetected, bypassed advanced security, and nearly succeeded in extracting their people. Yet they hadn't harmed a single alien despite having the opportunity. Your ability to infiltrate this vessel is concerning, he said, but your restraint is noted. Perhaps, interrupted diplomat Alara, who had just arrived, this presents an opportunity. These humans have demonstrated both their capabilities and their values. They came for their people, not for revenge. In the Pentagon Command Center, Director Wright watched the video feed from Major Lee's helmet camera. The Lunar Special Forces suits transmitted everything back to Earth via the quantum communication system. They're talking, she told the assembled world leaders. This is good. Can we trust these aliens? Asked the European Union president. Wright studied the aliens on the screen. Trust must be earned on both sides. But they haven't harmed our people yet, despite the biological issues. That suggests they value life. Back on the alien flagship, Admiral Korvash had made a decision. Captain Garcia, Major Lee, he addressed the humans. Your people have shown remarkable courage and restraint. I propose a meeting between our representatives to discuss terms for peaceful contact. We accept, Garcia replied without hesitation. Security Chief Dorn stepped forward. Admiral, I must object. These Deathworlders are intelligent beings who deserve the same respect as any council race, Korvash interrupted. Yes, they evolved on a Class 15 world. Yes, their biology is dangerous to us. But look at what that harsh environment created. Not mindless killers, but a species that values cooperation, ingenuity, and loyalty to their own. 2 hours later, in a specially prepared conference room with separate environmental systems for each species, the first formal meeting between humanity and the Galactic Council began. Director Wright led the human delegation via holographic presence. Admiral Korvash represented the council, with Diplomat Ilara, Science Officer Zrilix, and even the reluctant Security Chief Dorn at his side. We come in peace, Wright began, but we will defend ourselves if threatened. A reasonable position, Korvash acknowledged. "We apologize for capturing your vessel. We acted out of caution, not malice." The negotiations proceeded carefully. Both sides had concerns. The humans worried about their sovereignty and security. The Council worried about the biological threat humans posed and their potential expansion into space. "There is something you should know," Wright said eventually. "The artifacts we found on Mars, we believe they belong to your people." Zrilix leaned forward with interest. "The outpost we lost contact with centuries ago, you found it?" Wright nodded. "It helped us advance our technology. We've been preparing for this meeting for decades." "So that's how you developed quantum communication so quickly," Zrilix realized. As they continued to talk, a new alert came in from the sensor officer. "Admiral, we're detecting an energy signature similar to the USS Dauntless. It's approaching from the outer system." On the screen appeared a ship bearing the markings USS Dauntless, the very vessel they had found drifting in space. "Impossible," gasped Zrilix. "That ship was severely damaged." "Not impossible," Wright said with a slight smile. "After receiving your coordinates from the quantum message, we dispatched a recovery team. The Dauntless had set course for a small outpost in the outer system where additional crew were stationed. They repaired the ship and are bringing home the crew members who were in cryostasis." The aliens were stunned by this revelation. These humans had not only survived on a Class 15 death world, but had mastered space travel to a degree that allowed them to recover and repair a ship that by all rights should have been lost. "I believe," Admiral Korvash said slowly, "that we have greatly underestimated your species." 6 months later, Captain Olivia Bennett stood on the bridge of the newly commissioned USS Concordia. Beside her was diplomat Ilara, now serving as the official council representative to Earth. "Are you ready for this, Captain?" Ilara asked. Bennett nodded, looking at her mixed crew of humans and council races, all wearing specially designed environmental suits that allowed them to work together. "Helm," she ordered. "Set course for Tau Ceti. Let's see what's out there." As the Concordia prepared to jump to faster-than-light travel, Admiral Korvash updated the official Galactic Council classification of Earth in his final report. Sol 3, previously designated as a Class 15 death world, shall henceforth be recognized as the homeworld of humanity, a species of remarkable resilience and potential. While biological protocols must be maintained for the safety of all, humans have demonstrated that they are not defined by the harshness of their world, but by their ability to overcome it. It is recommended that the Council establish permanent, diplomatic relations with Earth and consider humans for eventual membership. The universe is vast and filled with wonders and dangers we have yet to encounter. Having allies who evolved in conditions we consider impossible may prove to be our greatest advantage in the challenges ahead. As the report was filed, the Concordia vanished into the depths of space, carrying with it the promise of a new era of exploration and cooperation between species that had once seemed incompatible, but now recognized the strength in their differences.